Okay, I hate to do this. Shh. Thank you. Please sit down. Please grab your seat. If you don't have one, sit in an empty seat. All right? Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you being here tonight. We know that each and every one of you in this room has a special relationship with Glen, whether it was on a trip or a meeting, a nonprofit or a board, family and friends, and we just appreciate you being here. So I'm going to bring Robert up. Robert, come on up. Robert is the only son of Glen and Kathy Gondo, and Robert will be our last speaker tonight, but we have had so many requests of people who wanted to speak tonight. And we are so sorry that, we'd be here for 300 days if we let everybody speak, right? Because this room has 430 people in it. And, that's just a tribute to Glen, right? But, so I think for the family, for the employees, I don't think they really knew the impact of Glen Gondo. And tonight, you have shown it so well to them, and how much he was loved, and who he knew, and his influence in this community, in this nation, and Japan, right? So I'm going to start tonight, since we're a little bit late. Mayor Whitmire, where are you? Please, come on up. So we have Mayor John Whitmire. No introduction needed. Thank you so much for being here.
Good evening. I wish each of you could stand in my shoes and see what a beautiful crowd this is. It's such an indication of the strength of our city and our love for Glen. So thank you for being here. Ms. Gondo, Robert, I want to thank you for asking me to participate. It's quite a celebration. God does not allow us when we lose a loved one, but He does allow us to celebrate. And tonight, this should be a celebration for such a complete life that Glen gave to us. We're never ready to lose a loved one, but celebration is allowed. And I hope that before this evening is over, we'll know how fortunate we are to have known Glen. He shaped and molded my career, like so many of you. In fact, I would laugh, I think in high school, my first dates was at Oakdale Gardens, so I'm not sure how well that worked out, but he certainly gave it an opportunity. Glen shaped and molded me, made me a better state representative, a better senator, and a better mayor. And I know I speak for each and every one of us. We're all better because Glen came into our life. And he did it so quietly. That was, I work around a lot of people that we call them showboats, show horses. Glen quietly advanced Houston. He was so proud of his culture, so proud to be Japanese. But he advanced the entire Asian community. And he brought us together. The diversity here tonight is such symbolic of Glen's life. So let me tell you, I will leave here a better mayor than the one he got here because of collectively our energy, how Glen's united us. I look at people in this crowd, they're not necessarily political allies, but Glen, like so many others, unite us and make us a greater city. I have a resolution, a proclamation from the city. I will not read it, out of respect for the other speakers, but the last part is probably the most important because it tells us so much of what we already know. His love of his family, his country, of his city, his business, and his values. But I will say, therefore, I, John Whitmire, Mayor of the City of Houston, hereby proclaim August 5th, 2024, in memoriam, Glen Gondo Day in the City of Houston. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to Japan, right, next year? And our next speaker tonight is Honorable Judge Lena Hidalgo. So we're so happy to have her tonight as well. As you can see, we have quite a lineup if you look at the program, right? And we're blessed to have her.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very pleased to be included in the lineup today, and really happy to see so many wonderful faces out there. And I've been in this kind of situation before, where I'll give a speech, and then I'll walk around and say hi to folks when there's an opportunity to do so, and then I'll do a double take, and do a kind of, oh my goodness, I didn't realize we're here. And that's when I run into Glen, sitting at some table back there, or back there. Pretty much every time I saw Glen at an event, I was surprised. I don't think I ever said not surprised at a lot of him, so he might think that's just how I greet everybody. As politicians, we try to be everywhere and for people to know that we were here. But Glen was the opposite. He was everywhere, but you wouldn't know it, because that's exactly how he wanted it. He really and truly wanted the impact of his work and his work for the community to speak for themselves. I admire that Glen thought big. He thought really big. He became a business scion as an Asian American and child of immigrants, which, as an immigrant, I can tell you is hard enough on its own. Not to say I'm a business scion by any means, I've got a lot of student debt, but he also decided to figure out how to have the biggest impact possible on behalf of his community. It was by being generous and by being present, but also by shouldering the weight of being an example, by supporting Asian Americans and Asian American young people and becoming the very best they could be, beyond stereotypes and without internalized limitations. For him, community was everything. I know in the Hispanic community, we struggle to get the young people to embrace their roots. It's scary, whether you're in a new country, in a new community, to stay true to your roots, to stay true to your culture. As people just by nature, we need to be part of a tribe. Rather than adapt and meet what the expectations were, perhaps in Texas, perhaps in this area, he wanted to make sure that our nation and our state and our community not only could see his community for what it was, but respected the force of what the Asian community represents. And Glen was a beautiful example of true strength and kindness. After I would say hi to Glen and get flustered that I hadn't realized he was there and said hi sooner, he would immediately make me feel at ease. I'm sure a lot of people can share that kind of story. He would make everyone around him feel at ease, just with a smile, without even saying anything or much of anything. He just had a calming and steadfast presence. People who have achieved as much as Glen had often feel they can get away with not being gracious. And the truth is, oftentimes, they can get away with not being gracious. I bet he could have. But he was the opposite of that. I always admired Glen's lack of pretense. I know Glen did so much, and Robert, we talked about recently just how hard he worked and how he was going to perhaps allow himself some more space to rest. And while Glen is no longer here, I do want to tell him that, Glen, you have earned this rest. You have done the work, and all the people here, myself included, will strive to carry on your work and your legacy. So, Robert, Kathy, Donna, all the friends and family, on behalf of Harris County, we will miss him. I will miss him. And I'm going to briefly read our resolution. So this is signed by all of my colleagues. This is Commissioner Rodney Ellis, Adrian Garcia, Tom Ramsey, and Leslie Briones, attestation by our county clerk, Janisha Hudson. And I'll just read a little portion of it. So it says here, whereas in 2002, Glen opened the first sushi bar in HEB, selling out on the first day. This led to sushi bars in over 290 HEBs across Texas and in other grocery stores like Albertsons across the United States. He was a pillar in the Asian American Pacific Islander community and was dedicated to promoting Japanese culture, inclusivity, and diversity in the daily lives of Harris County residents. He was the founder of the Japan Festival and helped build the Asia Society Texas Center, Chinese Community Center, and Hope Clinic. He was an important figure in the Houston area business community. He was on the board of the Greater Houston Partnership, Japan American Society of Houston, Greater Houston Convention Center, and the United Way, believing it was important for Asian Americans to be visible and involved in mainstream activities to eliminate stereotypes. Glen lived a life of impact. Be it resolved that Harris County Commissioners Court proudly celebrates the life of Glen Yoshiaki Gondo in Harris County, Texas.
Thank you so much. It reminds me of, I want to know a show of hands. Every time you saw Glen, did he ever grab your elbow and shake it? and say, how are you? No, really, how are you? And how about this one? Do you need anything? How can I help you? Right? So, I did have a speech earlier, but my computer gave out on me, so now I'm trying to remember everything. And thank you, Judge Hidalgo, you reminded me of some of those little things that Glen did for all of us. So I'm happy to introduce our next speaker tonight, and it's State Representative Jean Wu. Jean.
Thank you so much. I feel very privileged to be here. I think there's a lot of things to say about Glen. And he was a man of few words, but lots of love. And I know that he loved his family a lot. He loved his son immensely, because I know we spent a lot of time talking about him and wondering what he was going to do, whether he's going to come back and take over the family business. He loved our community. I mean, you heard he was on the board of a half dozen organizations. He donated. He put his money where his mouth was. But Glen to me was more. He was somebody that I deeply looked up to. Somebody that I called when I didn't know what to do. He was somebody that made me feel like I belonged in this world. And that's not what Glen at the core was to me. And so I'm going to try and explain that in the best way I can with this little story. So the first time Glenn met in real life, was at my fundraiser. And my wife, Maya, who had told me that Glenn was coming and you should prepare. And I'm like, okay, I knew who he was. I thought he was a kid. I think he's like a business guy, a moderate Republican. Like, what's he doing? What's he doing supporting like liberal Gene? And so I was really like, I don't know, what's he gonna ask of me? I don't know what I can offer him. I don't know what he wants. And I was going through my mind of how this conversation would go and how we would talk about things. And I prepared, like I started like doing some research on business hacks, all this other stuff, getting ready for it. And so we had the fundraiser, and I knew who he was, and he kind of like waited to talk to me. And after everybody had kind of moved off, he walked up to me and, okay, I'm not gonna drive that point home. But he looked up at me and he stared me straight in the eyes, and I'm like, oh God. And he grabbed my elbow. And he says, Gene, I only want one thing from you ever. And I said, what is that? He said, I want you to defend community. I want you to look after people like my parents. I want you to speak up for the people who have no voices. That the next time our community members are rounded up, are forced into trucks, are put into trains, the next time there will be people who speak up for us. And I shook his hand that day and I said, absolutely. I don't know if he remembered that conversation, but I remember that conversation every single day that I've been an elected official. And last year, when we were honoring him at the Asian Society, I told him this story. And he had completely forgotten that we had this conversation. And he looked me in the eyes. And he said, thank you. Thank you for keeping your promise. And for me, that's Glen. Of all the things he could have had in this world, of all the things he could have taken with his money, with the power that he had, the wish that he had was for us to love each other, to be good to one another, and to be happy. I have a resolution as well.
I'm reminded about something else about Glen. I want to see a show of hands. Because how many of you knew that Glen met Kathy in the 5th grade? All right. So I've been thinking about that because last year Robert did a 50th anniversary, a surprise party for them on their anniversary, and I thought now, 5th grade, we were in 10 years old, right? In 5th grade. So they've known each other for 65 years. And from 5th grade at the age of 10, they grew up together, right? So I was just reminded about that, and I just want to share that with you. So our next speaker tonight is Congressman Al Green.
He'll be here soon.
He'll be here soon.
Yeah, don't wait.
Okay, so our next speaker is Consul General Naganuma from Japan to Houston. Please come up.
The achievements of Mr. Glen Gondo cannot be described in a short time. Tens of thousands of Houstonians can experience Japanese culture at the annual Japan Festival in Houston. Millions of Texans can readily access sushi at supermarkets throughout the state. These opportunities seem natural now. However, they are actually special gifts that could not have been possible without the contribution of Mr. Gondo. For many years, he acted as a citizen diplomat to build many bridges connecting Texas and Japan. His life is a good example of how far one person can go to make a significant contribution to society. I'm truly proud to have such a person in Houston. And I'm really honored that such a great person was a Japanese American. I will never forget, and we will never forget his life of service. In order to express our sincerest gratitude on behalf of the government of Japan, I present to his family a special flag of Japan. This flag was flown in active service at the Consulate General of Japan in Houston and was actual physical symbol of Japan in Texas. I firmly believe that it's only fitting to present this to such a great person who acted for a very long time as a symbol of Japan in Texas. This August, a group of young people will visit Houston, traveling across the bridge of friendship built by Mr. Gondo. We will pass on his name and legacy to them, and together with new generation in Japan and Texas, we will further develop the friendship between Japan and Texas that was created by Mr. Gondo. Thank you very much.
Okay, I remember something else about Glen. Did you know he was a golfer? Did you know he had 3 holes in one? Yeah. So he learned that when he played golf, he could be with somebody for at least 4 hours, golfing and then dining and drink, right? So in that, he really loved golf. He was playing golf as much as possible. So much so, I used to tease him, because if you ever shook his hand, did you ever feel the calluses on his hands? Anyway, so that's another story about Glen I remember. But now our next speaker is Honorable Consul General Wei Lee from the Republic of Guinea and Southern News.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to celebrate my dear friend Glen's life. In the meantime, I'd like to represent the Republic of Guinea to express our condolence to Kathy and Robin. Glen and I have been friends for the last 35 years. I remember last year we will visit Washington, D.C. with the ambassador's resident. That day, we tried to catch a plane and come back to celebrate 50-year anniversary of their parents' wedding. But we lucky, Robert made it happen. So we catch a Southwest airline, come back to just, catch up the party time, 7 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a new immigrant. Glen's such a friend. He never say no. I say, said, Glenn, you need to write a check, immediately write a check. I said, you have to come. He always come on time, 5 minutes ahead of time. He said, only few person, he said, just come on time every day. So 22 years ago, when we started International Trade Center, he's one of the founders. He write a check, he support ITC, we've been doing great. 3 years ago, with my partner, Jim Norway, and then Glen, we tried to build 180 senior housing in international district. He's the one who also support this project. Well, with the help of our Judge Robert Ecker and J.P. Park, we tried to start a bank 4 years ago. He's also the first one to support our bank project. Ladies and gentlemen, Glen's life touched each one of us. So about 3 years ago, in the morning, he called me, wait, I have a very good friend, state senator, want to run for the mayor. So he said, let's go support him. Next week, we went to Postal Hotel, write a check to support mayor. Mr. Mayor, we love this great city. I tell you, I've been telling the Kathy, I say, Kathy, we're going to continue to finish this senior project or housing project. We're going to finish this legacy for our community. So Glen always tell me, wait, I'm so lucky when we wake up, I stay alive. But today, Glen, you stay here forever. We hope you rest in peace. Thank you so much. My newspaper group put up 50 pictures of a Glen's activity in our community. I presented to Robert.
Congressman Al Green, you're just in time. You know, Glen and Congressman Green and Whaley went to Taiwan and China together. But I had the privilege of going to Japan with him, with Mayor Parker and Mr. Turner and many other people in this room. You're up, honey. Come on. Come on. Don't be saying hi to everybody.
Nothing like walking in and walking up to the podium. Please allow me to extend first an apology for being late. Had an emergency to occur. You may have heard that a lady lost her 3 children in a fire. And there was a need for her to have someplace to reside. I received the call as I was trying to get to this event. I believe you understand, and I trust that you will excuse my being a little bit tardy to try to be of assistance. I'm told I have an hour, but I won't speak that long. I'm going to abbreviate my speech, abridge it, and abrogate it. I'll only speak for 30 minutes. I'm honored to have this opportunity, so I thank the family. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Robert, for allowing me. And I especially appreciate Ms. Cole. She has been very helpful in making sure that I'm aware of what's going on. When I last spoke to Glen, he was hospitalized. And we were talking to some extent about a trip that he was to take to Washington, D.C. He was to come there because the Prime Minister of Japan was speaking to a joint session of Congress. He was to be my guest. and unfortunately, he could not make the trip. We discussed that, and we talked about a few other things. I am always appreciative of people who want to see peace and prosperity. Glen was among those who sought to bring people together. I'm a Democrat, but it didn't make any difference to him. He had friends who were Republican. He wanted us to get along, and he wanted a better Houston for all Houstonians. For that, he ought to be celebrated and appreciated. And really should. In addition, he was a person who appreciated family. Met his wife in the 5th grade. 5th grade. I'm pretty sure not many of us met someone in the 5th grade that we still know now. I mean, he met his wife in the 5th grade. They were married for 50 years. They've already celebrated their 50th anniversary. I think that they merit an expression of appreciation for demonstrating to us what it's like to meet someone, love someone, stay with someone, and to grow with someone. Would you give Kathy an expression of appreciation? Finally, this. I hate to disappoint you by cutting my speech so short. I have the preeminent privilege as a member of Congress. It really is more than a preeminent privilege. It's a superlative pleasure, and it's a splendiferous honor. I've been accorded this great singular privilege of having flags flown over the capital of the United States of America to celebrate and appreciate those who have been a great part of the fiber and fabric of this great country. This is the same capital, same flagpole that we've flown flags for presidents. Dr. King, I want you to know that in my position as your member of Congress, we've had a flag flown over the capital of the United States of America to honor the life and legacy of the Honorable Glen Gondo. The flag is contained herein, and there's a long message which I shall not read, but I shall say this. Ruth Smeltzer captured some words in a very brief poem that speaks well of Glen Gondo and what his life was about. She reminds us that some measure their lives by days and years, others by heartthrobs, passions, and tears. But the surest measure under God's sun is what for others in your lifetime have you done. Let us thank Glen for what he's done for others in his lifetime to make their lives better for all of humanity. God bless you, Glen. We love you, Glen. And give him a Texas-sized expression of love. That's not Texas, I mean Texas-sized. God bless you, my brother. Thank you. I shall present this to the family.
Let me begin by acknowledging my gratitude to Kathy and Robert for allowing me to say a few words about my dear friend of 20 years, Glen Gondo. I know how much Glen loved each of you. My heart goes out to both as you grieve the loss of a great husband, a great father, and a great man. As I began preparing my remarks for this evening, I looked over the names of the people who would speak tonight. Donna Cole, Mayor Whitmire, Judge Hidalgo, Congressman Green, Representative Wu, Consuls General Nakanuma and Lee, and Jason Driscoll. Taken separately, there are men and women of Asian, African American, Hispanic, Caucasian descent. Taken together, they are the diverse leaders of a community brought together for one to honor one man, Glen Gondo, who was an apostle of tolerance and understanding his entire life. Over and over in his life, Glen Gondo brought people together. He never drove them apart. But there was more to Glen Gondo. He understood it was more difficult for some Americans to succeed than others. As a child of parents interned after Pearl Harbor for no reason other than their Japanese heritage, Glen Gondo understood the toxic stain of bigotry, and he knew what it could inflict on the soul of another. Yet he never allowed bitterness or hatred to creep into his heart. For him, the message was always one of hope. Hope that honest dialogue with others could open minds to new friendships. Glen Gondo was a proud American. At the same time, he was justly proud of his Japanese roots and wanted to share with others the glories of Japanese food, arts, and culture. He was the founder of the Houston Japan Festival, which annually draws thousands to 2 days of fun and food that support Houston's Japan Garden. He served on boards of the Japan America Society, the Asia Society, and the U.S.-Japan Council, quietly doing his part for better U.S.-Japan relations. What always impressed me about Glen was his humility. He never sought any credit for his enormous success in business or philanthropy. To Glen Gondo, it was always about what you could do tomorrow, not what you had done yesterday. In the end, it all came down to one thing: the strength of Glen Gondo's character. He was an honest man and a fountain of kindness. He cared for the people who worked for him. He cared for the customers who bought from him. He cared for the community where he lived. He was a man who believed in the basic goodness of others. Tonight we say goodbye to this fine man. Well done, good and faithful servant. Well done.
Okay, well, you know, Glen never really wanted to speak much, and when he did, he would say at the end, and don't forget to go to H-E ice cream. Okay, and one other thing about Glen too. All the galas, all the nonprofits that we went to, I want to see a hand raised up. Did Glen ever say to you, I gotta get home by 9 to make rice? Or how about this one? I have to get home by 9 because I need to go see Kathy because she's making ramen, right? Or food someplace, right? So we would do that too, and I know all of you have been with him to various restaurants. So I'm so proud to bring up our next speaker, and his name is Jason Driscoll. He's with HEB. He's the vice president of Sushi and Seafood.
Appreciate the sushi endorsement. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I feel honored to stand up here today and say a few words about our close friend and partner, Glen Gondo. Like all of you, we are so saddened by his passing. It's a tremendous loss for us, as he was truly part of our HEB family. He truly was. Glen was one of a kind, a true food pioneer that brought Houstonians some of the first tastes of Japan, originally with his restaurant Tokyo Gardens, and then through his catering. Glen and Kathy Gondo, along with the Lee family, were instrumental in launching sushi at HEB in 2002. It created an opportunity for everyone to experience the Asian culture and enjoy amazing foods. What started at our first store in Friendswood, Texas, has now grown to be in over 300 HEB stores across the state. Early on, sushi in a grocery store was met with skepticism, but it didn't take long for customers to see that we could deliver a high-quality restaurant experience. On that same note, Glen shared our relentless dissatisfaction for always wanting to bring our customers the best, ever evolving by creating new items that generate excitement for Japanese cuisine and marrying them with the roots he created in Texas. Every time we would meet with Glen, he was always asking, he grabbed my arm first before he asked, how can Tokyo Gardens continue to support your customers while also considering win-win solutions for the hard-working sushi operators? Glen always wanted to ensure operators felt his love and support, and he will be remembered for his contagious joy, always taking the opportunity to share his appreciation with others. He was a true pillar in the community, but most proud of his family. He never missed the opportunity to share the story. Boy, is a story to share a lot tonight. Meeting Kathy in the 5th grade. Oh, Kathy, he loved to share that story. He really did. And he never missed the opportunity to share his passion for golf. We're certainly going to miss him at our golf and charity events. Really will. Glen was our partner in every sense of the word, teaching us about his culture, his food, and his community. We would not only see him in our stores, but also at events around Houston. If HEB was being honored by a nonprofit, he, Kathy, and Robert were there by our side. He always knew how to be our partner. He gave back to us in immeasurable ways. And best of all, he always made us smile. We look forward to continuing his legacy throughout our stores and communities with Robert and Kathy, the Lee family, and the Tokyo Gardens team. HEB and so many Texans have been impacted by Glen's legacy, and for that, we will forever be grateful. Thank you.
Well, okay, our next speaker is Robert Gondo, but has another story about Glen, right? So I see Mayor Parker here, and there's Mr. Turner here, and I have to tell you, we did to Japan with them, had a great time, and you know, although Glen loved his Japanese food and his Japanese home cooking, he also loved steaks, so he was a great Texan, right? But most of all, when we would go to Japan, and after a week or so, he would get a little tired of Japanese food. And you might have seen a picture over here with Glen, and we were on a boat, and he needed hamburger. And what was it? McDonald's. So we are in a van, and we pull up to a McDonald's, and it's not one of those walk-in kind, it's a drive-up. And so because we were in this van, they got out of the car to walk up to the driver's window. And the guy goes, well, no sir, no car, right? So they get back in the car, and we drive around to the drive-thru, and we get in, and in Japan, the windows here, the driver's here, and the translator's over here trying to give him the order. And he says, no, driver must give order. Oh my God. So we drive around again, and here they get out of the van and they go walk up, and I'm like, oh my God, they're not gonna get this burger. But somehow they did get the burger. We're on the boat going to Nawashima Island, and there is Glen with his sunglasses eating his burger and french fries. So I thought you'd enjoy that story. Before Robert gets up to speak, and then after that, we'll have a close for Robert to begin, and then we're going to have dinner served. But what I'd like to do is, while dinner is being served, for those of you who did not get a chance to sign the memorial book, would you please come up here and sign it, and then please fill out the return envelope card so Kathy and Robert can send you a thank you note back. And then you can also, if you didn't get a program because we forced you guys to sit down, to please grab a program. Thank you. Robert, you're up.
Thank you all for being here tonight on behalf of Kathy and J1. Thank you to our family. Thank you to our elected officials, dignitaries, and of course, Ms. Donna Cole, Mr. Bob Berryman, all our wonderful volunteers in the back, Eric and the Lambo staff, thank you for being here and putting this together. You are all so tremendous. Did Glen love a good party? And isn't this the best reason to throw a party in his honor? Before we get started, I've noticed, I've heard stories of people who had overcome a lot of obstacles just to be here tonight. I want to say that I deeply, deeply appreciate all the efforts that everyone has made to be here. It really is so touching to hear what people have done just to be in this room. And I also know the immense pressure being the last person standing between you and dinner. So I promise to try my best. A young Glen Gondo found himself outside of Woolworths in Dallas on a hot summer afternoon. Wanting to cool off, he got in line at the water fountain, saw a sign above it that read, "Whites only." So he looked around and saw another water fountain and a sign above it that said, "Blacks only." Not sure what to do, Glen being Glen, he went inside and bought a Coke. To ask Glen what it was like growing up in that world would be like him asking his parents what life was like growing in California during World War II, when his parents, U.S. citizens, gave up their farm, everything they owned, and were sent to internment camp in Colorado. His parents didn't talk about the war. They didn't want him to grow up with animosity, because they wanted him to be a normal American kid. And like his parents, he wanted me to grow up like a normal American kid and live the American dream. But parents, here's a lesson for you. Share your stories with your kids. I know you're so well-intentioned, but pass it down, please. It means a lot. Kathy married Glen in 1973, as you all know, and they spent the next 50 years pursuing their American dream. They worked in restaurants, delivered produce, traded diamonds, a journey that took them from California to Oklahoma, Florida, and New York, and finally settled down in Houston, and I think would have made for a very peaceful life, if not for me. Eventually, they sold sushi. I didn't appreciate how unencumbered my childhood was. Thanks to Glen and Kathy, I had choice of where I wanted to go to school, what career to pursue, and so as far away from sushi in Texas I went. And it was a great learning and I'm so thankful. And like gravity, I was drawn back. Glen never asked me to come back home. Really, he never did. But he was always optimistic. Now, usually an optimist is someone who buys a new set of golf clubs expecting his score to get better. And in truth, his golf game never improved. But he got everything he wanted. Around COVID, Glen started to say every single day that he felt blessed. He lived on a golf course. J1 and I moved in the neighborhood. Business was getting better. And after 20 years in that neighborhood, he finally got what he really wanted, which was his precious golf cart. This was his American dream. When he started chemo, his first question was if he'd lose his mustache. Spoiler alert, he didn't. When he got admitted to the hospital, he asked if the TV in the room had the Golf Channel. And his first question each time I visited was if I'm going to the premiere of the Japanese art exhibit downtown, which I did. His last big excursion was to Japan with the city delegation 2 years ago. He was so proud to be on that trip. And at the conference in Tokyo, Mayor Turner said it's important for these cultural exchanges to take place. One of the reasons we have so many worldwide problems is because people have not had a worldwide experience. This is why you should all try the sushi HEB, by the way. Glen would say, though, all he wanted was for Americans to like Japanese and for Japanese to like Americans. Simple and optimistic. He moved to Houston in 1984, intending to run a restaurant, and ended up spending the rest of his life fighting discrimination. He came to love this city so much, and the opportunity presented. Glen was Glen from the beginning to the very end. Because of him, I feel optimistic about the future. Sad, he's not here now. And eager to carry on his effort to make the world a better place. Because it does take work. All of you being here, being present, took work. So thank you for being here. Now I'd like to make a toast. And this one's a little unusual. Because they're passing around Bud Heavy. And if anybody knew Glen, you knew that this was his favorite drink. So we're gonna have one in his honor. Okay, who still drinks these? celebration after all. So as you enjoy dinner, please think of any happy or fun memories with Glen. And I invite you to share with the people around you. So here's to Glen. Cheers.
Who's going to bless the food that we're going to eat tonight. So Daniel, please come on up.
Would you please bow your heads as we give thanks for this dinner? Our gracious and loving Father, we ask for your presence today as we come to celebrate and honor the life of a very special person and friend, Glen Gondo. And you, Glen, was God's special blessing and role model to the community by your generosity in supporting many organizations and individuals. At this time, we also ask that you continue to support Kathy, Robert, Damon, and the Gondo family. Now we ask that you bless this dinner that has been prepared and that you enrich the fellowship as we continue to honor and celebrate Glen's life. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.